Okay, so it's been a while since I've done one of these. A lot has happened lately, so I've been kind of neglecting my YouTube channel. But I'm here again, so let's dive right in. This will be kind of a twofer today for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I finished these two books within days of each other, so they're both still kind of fresh in my mind. Secondly, they're by the same author, Darcy Coates. And thirdly, I listened to both of them on Audible. And finally, they're kind of the same damn book. Welcome to Writer's Nest's review of The Hauntings of Ashburn House and The Haunting of Blackwood House. Now, I say these books are almost the same, and they are, but it's not in a bad way. There's kind of a prevailing opinion in Hollywood and within the book publishing industry about what audiences want. The same, only different. Familiar stories with enough differences so that audiences don't immediately cry ripoff. Book series like the Matthew Scudder books and Bernie Rodenbar books, both by Lawrence Block, or the Harry Bosch novels by Michael Connelly are prime examples, as well as the only three I can pull off of the top of my head, because I'm a fan of all three of them. In the Bernie Rodenbar books, for instance, they all start with Bernie burgling somebody and either finding a corpse or ending up connected with a murder, and Bernie, has to solve the murder to clear his name of charges, except for the burglary. Now, there's nothing wrong with the same, only different. My own series of novels is shaping up to be the same kind of thing. So when I say Ashburn and Blackwood are the same, I'm not saying that is a bad thing. Ms. Coates has obviously found her niche, and she works well in it. Let me start with the summaries first, and then I'll get kind of to my thoughts and comments. The Haunting of Blackwood House follows a young lady named Mara. Mara's the daughter of spiritualists, and she grew up around seances and mediums and all that nonsense. She leaves home and vows to leave that all behind. When we meet her, she's living in a single rented room with next to nothing to her name. She has one goal: buy a house. Did I mention Ms. Coates lives in Australia? Because Mara is a 20-something in the book, and, I mean, that was like 13 years ago for me, and I still can't even imagine buying a house now. Like, I'm in my 30s, and I can't imagine owning a home. Even thinking about buying one is nowhere on my radar. Maybe it's a cultural difference between America and Australia, the economic difference, I don't know. I digress. She wants to buy a house. She finds Blackwood through her realtor, and it's stupid cheap. Because of murder and supposed hauntings. Big surprise, that one, given the title of the book. But, once again, I digress. Blackwood is a decent haunted house story, especially because our heroine does not believe in ghosts. Just like that, all caps, maybe Neon does not believe in ghosts. But it's really not her fault. Most of the minor occurrences that happen early in the book are easily written off as like the house settling, or, everybody, when they're a kid, they hear the strange noises in the night, and they tell their parents, and the parents are like, oh, it's just the house settling, or the pipes creaking, or whatever. Everything that happens in Blackwood, towards the beginning to even the middle of the book, everything that happens can be explained to that. The pipes, the water runs red, like blood, but that can be explained away as well by rust, because the house has just been dormant for, I think they said, upwards of 20 years. It's not until the climax of the book that the phenomena actually can only be explained by ghosts. And by that point, Mara has already given up on her disbelief and called in a team of mediums. Blackwood is a good little haunted house story. It's nothing earth-shattering, nothing that turns the genre on its ear, but it's a decent read all the same, or listen in my case. If I had a problem, it's the main character herself. Mara is so blindly determined not to believe in ghosts because of her background among spiritualists. I don't know, maybe it's a byproduct of my being an American 80s kid, but I want to believe in ghosts. I am Fox Mulder in this case from the X-Files. I want to believe. I wanted to be a Ghostbuster so bad as a kid that, I still have all my toys, for Christ's sake. So I found Mara's willful disbelief a little tiring, especially towards the end of the book. Now, it's only like 6 to 9 hours long on Audible, so it doesn't really overstay its welcome. But all the same, Mara kind of grated on my nerves towards the end. Her boyfriend is even worse, but that's a whole other kettle of fish. Like, he grated on my nerves, but it was in such a forgettable way that I barely remember anything about him, even after only having finished the book maybe 3-4 days ago. So take that as you will. The second book, The Haunting of Ashburn House, follows Adrian. She goes by Addie, and I will call her that just for sanity's sake, who recently inherited a house from a great aunt she doesn't know she has. This one's a little harder to explain, but it does turn the haunted house trope on its ear to a point. The ghosts in Ashburn aren't the problem in this case, but the dead are restless. Of the two, I recommend Ashburn House more, because although I guessed who Addie was being menaced by about halfway through the book, it's still a great take on the genre. On that note, I have a few issues with both books. Both Blackwood and Ashburn follow a single woman in their mid to late 20s. Okay, yes, Mara in Blackwood has a boyfriend, but they're not married, and she acts like she'd rather be alone most of the time. They have next to no possessions, which kind of baffles me. I mean, without my fiancé, I wouldn't have as much furniture as I do. I wouldn't have the dog that you just heard bark. But I would have had enough to need a moving van were I to inherit or buy a mansion. In the case of Blackwood House, Mara gets to Blackwood in her boyfriend's van. And he brings along stuff, but that's different. Addie gets to Ashburn House in a taxi cab with her cat in a carrier. Like, they have almost nothing. And this is explained in both books. Mara has been saving every scrap of money she can afford to purchase a house. And Addie recently had to liquidate everything she owns because of her mother's drawn-out illness, so I guess it makes sense, but still kind of sticks in my craw. Another issue I had was that neither of the characters did anything to make the house their own. Granted, both books take place over the span of maybe a week, but still, alright, I'll break it down for you. I'll put myself in the shoes of Adrian, because I like her better, and it's an easier scenario for me to put myself in. If a lawyer sought me out and told me I'd inherited a house in the middle of Bumblescum nowhere from a relative I don't even know, I know exactly what I'd do. I would drive out there and I'd tour the entire fucking house. There wouldn't be any of this, wait, there's a fucking basement? A week into things. I'd explore every nook, cranny, and room of that house, throwing open all the doors, windows, and cleaning every fucking inch. Addie seems to be content with letting everything be grimy, especially the windows. The windows are called dirty or grimy several times throughout the book. Clean them! She doesn't realize that she has a basement, which becomes very important later on in the novel, because she seems to have glued herself to just one room in the house. And granted, that's where the fireplace is. I get that. There's only power on the lower floor, so I get her reticence not to explore after the sun goes down. But still, you have 12 hours of sunlight. You are a self-employed person. Do something to take up your day. Me, I'd have that house mapped out. I would know every single room on every floor, any problems that each room had, and what furniture was already there. I would have an inventory of what I wanted to keep, what I would sell. I would learn everything about this mysterious benefactor who left me their home, and the family they had, and how I was connected to them. I would question people in nearby towns and about the house, and all of its issues and legends and shit. In short, I would have avoided the whole damn story, because I would have found the basement and what was in it on day fucking one. All of this comes across as a bit of a rant, making it sound like I didn't like the book, but I did. I enjoyed both of them, and I'll be listening to them again. The narrators were both well chosen. They didn't have any vocal tics that got on my nerves. All in all, I'd say that Ashburn edges out Blackwood, simply for the likability of the main character and the interesting spin on the haunted house genre the book presents. If I were to do a 10-point scale, with 5 being the average, I'd give Blackwood a 6 out of 10. It's a solid book, but not outstanding. Ashburn is harder to nail down. Personally, I did like it better than Blackwood, as I said, so I'd probably put it at an 8 out of 10. Either way, if you like haunted house books or want to get into the genre, I'd give Darcy Coates a try. Either one of these books is a good warm-up to the classics like Richard Matheson's Hell House or Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House.